Ego. That's the topic. That was the topic of contemplation this morning. It's still early. I was just analyzing me, internally analyzing me. Not outsourcing any understanding, just complete 100% internal analysis. And that's exactly and only what I am speaking on and from, etc. Nothing more, nothing less. Not including anyone else, nothing of the sort. I was just contemplating, again, one example, one understanding, one point of view, however you want to look at it. I'm not claiming all of it. But in that moment of contemplation, or moments rather, that period of contemplation, I was contemplating what brings forth ego, what energizes my ego, what causes it to be in one way at all in me. It is when my layer of self is not in alignment in any way, shape, or form with my authentic being. That is, again, the self is primarily, what I've observed is self-centered. The self only orients everything to the self. And yet the being is authentic. It is a singularity of itself. Your being, my being even, like everybody is their own singularity, their own singular person of any layer. There is a foundational authenticity of everybody. Or else they wouldn't be at all. Or what would even cause dysfunction at all if there was no authentic underlying you or me? What would cause any dysfunction at all then? The conflict in me is basically my authentic being is as it is, what it is, etc. And everything else is already whatever it is. I did not create it, I don't dictate it, etc. So even disruptions, they're not me. My authentic being doesn't want to it does not cause disruptions. Everything is as it is, what it is, etc. Being doesn't intentionally disrupt. Self does. The self can. Yeah, regarding me, my being cannot intentionally disrupt. Since I am aware of its constant, of its authenticity, of the singularity that is me and what is not me. My being doesn't look at everything and say, well, this got to align with me, this got to serve me, this got to be what I want it to be, and that's it. No, that's the self. The being, my being does not, that's poison to my being. So what energizes the ego in me in that way? The self wanting it to be what the self wants it to be. Again, a misunderstanding with somebody. It doesn't matter. The first thing understood isn't the whole picture. But yet, if it's conflicting, the self is offended because it's got to always be about the self. And if it's negative, oh, suddenly you got your panties in a bundle. Whereas being, well, that's one example, that's one understanding. Show me the rest, because it is what it is. Even if somebody's being rude, my being is like, well, you're not me. You are that you are. You have your own free will. You are your own existence. It is what it is. Somebody could be as rude as Bob, think I'm a prick or this and that, but does that make me that? No. That does not make my being that. And yet the self, everybody knows, and you hear something bad and you allow it to infect you with your negativity, here comes depression and low self-esteem, etc., etc. That's still ego. Making what is not you define and dictate you, or me in this case, as an example. It's like everything already is what it is. The whole world could blow up tomorrow. What? Why should I be influenced by that? Because it is what it is, to go to the extreme. I can't do nothing about it, so why should I let the self drive and determine my entire state based on external things instead of the constant authenticity of me? Forgiveness as an example, and then I'll be done. Why doesn't the self like forgiveness? Why couldn't myself intellectually understand forgiveness and embody it for decades? Because the self wants to be primary. Everything has to be about the self. And the reaction from there, etc., etc., etc. The self, myself, received negativity, and it wanted to basically justify it and give it right back. That's what the self does. It's in one way of putting it. But yet, being, authentic being, already knows everything else is whatever it is as it is. If it did not initiate it, it is what it is. Period. Being is already authentic in and of itself. You don't add to it. That's disruption. So, forgiveness is basically not holding on to what is not me. Not carrying the disruption anymore. Not embodying it, nothing of the sort. Because more negativity plus negativity is just more negativity. It's an endless cycle. Forgiveness interrupts that cycle. And in the self, identity, ego, self-centeredness, etc., I couldn't understand that. Authentic being, though, it is what it is. I'm not sure exactly how to fully explain that. nor am I going to try, because I've already tried recording this video about 3 times now, but I kept over-explaining and going from one thread to another. You know, one thing leads to another, and then that leads to another, and that leads to another, and that's all explanation. I kept going too far. But for me, that is one way that brings ego forth, to allow ego to even materialize, to even function in me, is myself trying to be central like the self does, and not listening to the being and being truly being oriented as I've always been, because I've been aware of my authentic being, of the singularity that is me, since awareness came to be, since it came forth, so to speak. So even childhood, even all that bullying, it hurt the self all the time. It hurt the being too, because again, authentic being just wants congruence. It wants to harmonize with other people, not deal with their negativity. But it's like that would have been the only pain and suffering, was the actual disruption happening and being aware of it, and not, again, making, falsely being led by the self and allowing all that external negativity to determine me and cause all sorts of suffering. And yet in being, it's like, even if somebody's negative to you, and I've heard this example or explanation over and over, is basically people are who they are regardless of anyone else. So if they're going to be negative towards you and you don't, or to me, and I don't authentically or misunderstandingly cause that disruption to happen, then I don't need it to influence me, because I'm already authentically am what I am. Try understanding that as a child. No, you can't. All right, I'm done there. Instead of keep on explaining more and more and more, it's like, you know what? Let it be.